Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Dimension Tripper Neptune, Top NEP. A Neptunia take on rail shooters. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From Publisher Idea Factory, Top NEP released to PCs via Steam in January of 2022. This is the second shoot 'em up to feature the Neptunia franchise, the first being a side-scroller that released a few years ago. This one goes a different direction. This is a rail shooter very much in the vein of Space Harrier, and there's a reason for that, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So if you're a fan of titles like Space Harrier, or you're a fan of the Neptunia franchise, this is a title that I can easily recommend to you. It does have the drawback of being a little short and easy, but especially given its lower price point, that's definitely forgivable. So here we find ourselves at the main menu. There's not a whole lot here to talk about. One thing to note though, this title does have online leaderboards, so that's a great plus in its favor. Starting the game itself, we have two difficulties we can choose between, normal and hard. The primary difference, aside from hard being a little bit harder, is you can't continue in hard mode, and continue in normal mode uses a point penalty system rather than actually having a set number of continues. Starting the game, we can see that it's got this beautiful scrolling rail shooter-like appearance, very, very much in the vein of Space Harrier. We play as the character Older Neptune, basically a different version of the main character from the Neptunia franchise. If you're familiar with the franchise at all, that might make sense to you, but can be a little bit confusing. We have two primary attacks. Our shot, which is very similar to what you would see in other rail shooters of this genre. And we also have a close range slash. The slash does hit a little bit further out from your character and in a pretty decent arc. It's very important if you're looking to minimize the damage you take throughout the course of your playthrough, as not only will it deal damage, but it does also cancel enemy bullets. We don't see many enemy shots in the earlier part of this stage, as the game starts off fairly friendly. We're just basically fighting these little petals. I can't remember the name they are from the series, and then the slime-like characters we're fighting are Dogu. Just a kind of a cute little take on slimes from other franchises. If you're familiar at all with the Neptunia series, you kind of know what to expect from this one, but if you're not, the basic idea is that you've got all these characters and worlds that personify the video game industry, and at the core of that are these goddesses that represent different consoles or platforms. So in the case of our main character Neptune, she's from Planetune, which is basically Sega, and would represent the non-existent Sega Neptune, as one of the consoles that Sega had was the Sega Saturn. The other ones you've got one that represents the PlayStation, the Nintendo, and the Xbox as well. So, in addition to our regular shots and attacking the enemies, we're gathering these coins, and that fills a meter in the bottom right, a coin gauge. Once that coin gauge is full, it summons a wingmate to help us out, and that wingmate happens to be one of the other characters from the franchise, one of the other goddesses. In the case of the last goddess that we had there, that was Blackheart, the goddess that represents the PlayStation console. So with the boss of stage 1 down, we move on to stage 2. And I haven't talked about what kind of health system this game uses. So we have lives or HP represented in the bottom right. If we take enough hits, enemy shots will usually deal a 1 or a half a heart of HP, and actually taking a hit will deal 1 heart. So we have our second wingmate. This one is Iris Heart from... she's basically supposed to represent an earlier version of the Sega console, specifically the Mega Drive. And once we fill the next gauge, you can see there on the bottom right, it'll be Greenheart, who represents the Xbox family of consoles. And as far as like gameplay is concerned, we basically moved this way through 5 different stages representing various places throughout the Neptunia franchise. The first was the planet or city of Planetune, basically the city of Sega, as it were. And then we see that again later on in the game. So, as I mentioned in my introduction, some of the things I feel like the game does have an issue with is it's just on the short side. We're already almost halfway through the game itself. There are just 5 stages, and the last stage is largely just the final boss fight. So, really 4 stages and then just a final boss. So there you have it. Top NEP served up for your enjoyment. As far as the minus flavors are concerned, as mentioned multiple times, the game is definitely on the short side, and it's fairly easy. What you're seeing here on normal is pretty indicative of what you would even encounter on hard. Maybe just a few more enemies, a few more shots, but as I mentioned, the slash can actually cancel enemy bullets, so even like these waves that are coming at us, we don't have to dodge them if we don't want to. We can just cancel the enemy shots. We just have to avoid this dragon's punches, and there's like other physical attacks the enemies use, and we can get through that. Another, like, this isn't really as much of a complaint as something I would have liked to have seen in the game itself, but I would have, given all the characters that are present in the title, it would have been nice to play as other characters other than just older Neptune. You have a total of, well, if you count the next set of wingmates, Rom and Ram as one character, there are 9 other characters, protagonists that are in the game that you could potentially play as. It would have been nice to have that option, even if there weren't different abilities or much that separated them from your main character. It would have been like fun to have that opportunity. But on the plus side, so I really love how well they've captured the look and just the feel of this type of rail shooter. So Neptune represents the Sega and like the Sega family of consoles. So having her like headline Space Harrier like title is, I feel, truly perfect. And in addition to capturing like the graphical look and just having some like great sprite work overall, they did an excellent job of capturing the feel. It just like handles great. The controls are super smooth, easy to use, and as far as using a controller, you can either use like the face buttons or the bumpers to control your shots. I appreciate like having both of those options in there, and it's just an enjoyable title to sit down and just like enjoy a run. A run's only going to take you about 15-20 minutes or so, so it's just kind of like one of those ones where you'll sit down, play through it a few times, and that's probably it. But I think for like what it is, like especially if you're a fan of the franchise, it's well worth both your money and your time. Alright, well, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week. I really hope you have a wonderful week next week as well, and we'll see you next time.